Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare.
O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely
Hare
free from
Krishna,
all vice, great service is done.
Krishna
By such service,
Krishna,
one gains
Hare
affinity for
Hare,
multiple stages of
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Rama Ram.
personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Tada rajastamo bhavaha कामलोबादयश्च ये चेत एतैर् अनाविद्दं सितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sanghasya jayate. Thus, established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord, gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Vidyate hridaya grantish chidyante sarva samshayaha क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya I always Radhikacharya also does this. Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Namajar Haridas Thakur ki jai, Param Sagahal Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopika Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gidiga Pradan ki jai, Shri Vadavada ki jai, Davadukam ki jai, Gang Jamana Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samavata Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the Son of the Lord, all glories to the Son of the Lord. All glories to the Son of the Lord, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Karanga, all glories to the Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ma Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shutarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Kirtan chapter 86 verse 49. Satvam sadisva vrityana kim deva karavamahe etad anto narnam klesho yadbhavan achigochara. Sa, he, from, you, sadi. Please order. Swa, your. Brityang, servants, Na, us, Kim, what, Deva, O Lord, Karavama, we should do. Hey, O Etat, having this, Anta, has its end, Nirnam, of humans, Klesha, the troubles, Yat, of that. Gochara, visible. Translation, O Lord, you are that supreme soul and we are your servants. How shall we serve you? My Lord, simply seeing you puts an end to all the troubles of human life. Sukadeva Goswami said, after hearing Srutadev speak these words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who relieves his surrendered devotees' distress, took Srutadev's hand in his own and, smiling, spoke to him as follows. Purport, Acharya Vishwanath comments that Lord Krishna took Srutadev's hand and smiled as a gesture of friendship to tell him, yes, we know the truth about me, and you know the truth about me, and I also know all about you, so now I will tell you something special. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Brahmana, you should know that these great sages have come here just to bless you. They travel throughout the world with me, purifying them with the dust of their feet. Purport, Srila Swami explains that Lord Krishna thought Srutadev had shown too much reverence to him and not enough to the sages, and thus he turned the Brahmana's attention to them. One can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, and worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same result immediately simply by receiving the glance of exalted sages. Purport, rather than remaining in seclusion and concentrating on their own perfection, Vaishnava Brahmins of the highest order dedicate their lives to sharing the benediction of the Lord's devotional service. In the words of the sons of King Prachinabharhi, Tesham Vicharatam Padvyam Tirtanam Pavanetchaya Vitasya Kimno Rocheta Tavakanam Samagamaha. Dear Lord, your personal associates, your devotees wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? Prayena deva munaya sva vimukti kama monam charanti vijnanena parartha nishta etanvya kripanam vimumuksha eko nanyam tvarasya saranam brahmatonu pasye. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance. Not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter of your lotus feet. One can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, and worshiping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers, but one can attain the same result immediately simply by receiving the glance of exalted sages. So, as was explained here in the purport, the Supreme Lord, though he was praised by Srutadev, he's now instructing Srutadev that one should also praise the devotees of the Lord. So the Lord had been accompanied by all these different sages, some of whom were quite famous. So the Lord is praising these devotees. We see in other places as well, the Lord starts to praise the devotees rather than to praise himself, which is natural for the Supreme Lord. He doesn't get proud of having others praise him. Rather, he's always in a humble state of mood, and therefore he likes to praise the devotees. And in this particular case, he's saying that the devotees are more purifying than worshiping the deity or visiting holy places or bathing in holy rivers, etc. So in other words, association with devotees is more powerful to help us advance in spiritual life than other processes. And this, we can see, is one of the conclusions of the whole Bhagavatam. There is a lot of glorification of the devotee. This does not mean that we reject the Supreme Lord or worship of the Lord and just worship devotees. But the way in which we can properly worship the Lord is by getting the proper instructions from the devotees of the Lord. And from them we also get inspiration to worship the Supreme Lord. And of course we see that the qualification for bhakti comes by mercy of devotees in the form of agata sukriti, that is accidental acts of bhakti. And then once one gets faith over many lifetimes, then we begin devotional service because of sadhu sangha. So we have shraddha, then we have sadhu sangha, then we have bhajana kriya, the acts of devotion. But of course, it is also said that before the shraddha, again there is sadhu sangha. So the actual procedure is sadhu sangha, shraddha, sadhu sangha. Therefore, the association of devotees is intrinsic to the beginning of devotional service. First to give faith, and then after the faith to encourage the person to start the process of devotional service. So therefore the devotees have to be given proper respect at all times. And thus the Bhagavatam always praises the devotees of the Supreme Lord. The counter principle, of course, is aparadha. So out of all the different aparadhas, the Vaishnava aparadha is the worst. So just as association with devotees is the cause of bhakti and the cause of advancement, so Vaishnava aparadha is the cause of destruction of bhakti, not performing bhakti, not having faith. Therefore one has to be very careful of Vaishnava aparadha. Now those who don't have no devotion at all, they may be aparadhis, like demons. We see when Krishna was present, there were many demons, so they were aparadhis, completely opposed to the Supreme Lord. And consequently, they offend all the devotees, because if they don't appreciate the Supreme Lord, they won't appreciate the devotees. So they're aparadhis against the Lord and aparadhis against the Vaishnavas. So, for instance, Kamsa, he imprisoned many of the Yadu dynasty and Vasudeva and Devaki. So they're all devotees of the Lord. Physically, he is afflicting them in many ways. So he's a great aparadhi of the devotees. Of course, he's also aparadhi of the Supreme Lord, because he doesn't think the Supreme Lord has a spiritual body. He's only a material person. So such persons are very unfortunate. The people who are neutral are very fortunate, and therefore they can advance. So we see that Ajamil, though he was sinful, he had no aparadha, and therefore by simply chanting the name of Narayan once, he destroyed all of his karmas. So that much mercy they can get, even from accidental bhakti, if there's no offense involved. Now if Ajamil had committed offense, then we would not see that same effect. There would be a gradual reduction of karmas, etc. Huh? So, in the case of a neutral person, very good. In the case of a devotee, then, we would not expect that there would be aparadha because he's favorable to the Lord. So therefore, he will not offend the devotees, not offend the Supreme Lord. But we see the case of the Kanishta. The Kanishta devotee is defined as a person who respects the Lord in the temple. But that's it. So he doesn't respect the devotees. So he may commit aparadha against devotees because of that. He just avoids the devotees or doesn't listen to devotees at all. So not a good position to be in. So the Kanishta is likely to make Vaishnava aparadha. He won't make aparadha against the deity because that's his main worship. But then he doesn't recognize devotees, so he's more likely to commit Vaishnava aparadha, and therefore very difficult for him to advance beyond that Kanishta stage. If that Kanishta is fortunate, then the Madhyamadhikaris give him mercy. He may or may not have offense, but if it's offense, then of course the mercy doesn't act so well because he doesn't like devotees. He's aparadhi against devotees, therefore how the mercy can act upon him. Very difficult. So if he hasn't committed offense, then fine, then he gets the mercy of devotees and he can get promoted to the Madhyama stage. So that is a very healthy stage because the Madhyama respects the devotees nicely. So it's a safer stage. He has knowledge gained through the devotees, and therefore he can perform devotional service properly. So he is the one that will appreciate the devotees, and he will appreciate these statements in the Bhagavatam. However, there is a possibility that even the Madhyama could commit some aparadha. Like a Vaishnava aparadha. And therefore, of course, we always recite the 10 aparadhas every morning. We see it may even happen up into bhava stage. One could commit an aparadha. So therefore, it is possible to commit aparadhas all along the line, but less likely as we advance. So on the Kanishta stage, more likely, Madhyama less, and higher stage, no. What is the cause? Why would the Madhyama do that? In most cases, we can see it would be bad association. We associate with people who are at a lower stage. They are Kanishtas and they don't respect Vaishnavas, or they are aparadhis, even though they're supposed to be Vaishnavas. Then we will also tend to pick up the same habit and become aparadhis ourselves. So in other words, due to bad association, we can fall down to a Kanishta or lower level because of that bad association. So therefore, one also has to watch one's association very carefully. Of course, a countermeasure is to get good association, which means we associate with devotees who do not criticize or offend other devotees. If we have that type of association, then we're guaranteed not to commit Vaishnava aparadhas. Okay? So if we follow these instructions carefully, then we'll have healthy devotional service. If we associate with the wrong people, and aparadhis, etc., then who may be also devotees, but they're got a lot of aparadhi tendency to criticize everyone, etc., then it's likely we can, especially if we have a friendship with them, then we can very easily also become aparadhis. Now, the result of that is that the bhakti weakens. And Lord Chaitanya says this is the mad elephant offense, which means that suddenly the bhakti can get severely injured or even destroyed. Just like the wild elephant will come into the village. I think there are places in Bengal they still have wild elephants, and in Kerala also, and maybe Tamil Nadu also. So if you don't want the elephants, you have to have a big fence to keep them out. If you don't have the fence, at nighttime the elephant can come in there. A mad elephant at that. He's not even a rational elephant. So he'll just start destroying everything. No particular reason. He's not even hungry maybe. But he'll just come in and start trampling on everything, tearing up all your banana trees, uprooting all your crops, destroying your house, doing everything. And you can't prevent it. It just happens like that. So what to speak of the little bhakti creeper? It's not even a strong, not a tree, it's just a little plant, and squish it, like I've finished. Right? So therefore the Vaishnava aparadha can have very serious effects on the creeper of bhakti. Right? And as a result, then one will lose taste for devotional service. Because of this aparadha, one begins to lose a taste. One loses a taste for devotional service, then he won't practice it properly. If he doesn't practice it properly, there's no hope of recovery. So the only hope to recover from aparadha is to intensely chant the holy name or perform devotional service. But because he has no taste for the holy name and devotional, he won't do anything. So therefore, how can he get rid of the aparadha? He stays in this very low position of not wanting to do anything in terms of devotional service. So that is what makes the offense very serious, because once the damage is done, then it is very difficult for the person to recover because of no taste at all. No? If the person is intelligent, of course, then he can get a cure. So it's compared to a sick person, the person with jaundice. So the quality of the person with jaundice, the liver problem, is that whatever he tastes, particularly the sweet things, do not taste any good. So he has no taste, can't taste things properly, and the sweet things taste bitter. So similarly, devotional service does not taste very good. Holy name is no good. So he doesn't want to do these things because he's in a very low state. Yet we know that the cure, the traditional cure at least for jaundice, is to take the sugar candy, in spite of the fact that it's bitter. So the person who is just attached to his tongue, then he'll, no, it's too bitter, I'm not going to take it. Intelligent person will understand, yes, I am sick. And the doctor says I have to follow this prescription and take the medicine, even though it's bitter and I don't like to taste it. And so he starts to take the medicine. And if he takes that sugar, even though it is bitter tasting, and he does that daily, then gradually the sickness declines and he begins to develop a taste again for the sugar. It tastes a little sweet again. So similarly, the person, if he's intelligent and takes good instruction, even though he has no taste, he will continue to practice bhakti or chant the holy name. He may not be able to do it very well, but to whatever extent he can, he'll do that. And the more he can do that, then he'll get the cure. He'll gradually improve. So gradually he'll develop a little more taste for chanting and other processes of bhakti. If he doesn't do anything, then there's no hope. If he does that, in spite of the fact that he doesn't want to do it because it doesn't feel right or whatever, if he keeps doing it, then gradually he'll develop a taste. And then gradually he recovers from that offense. The safer process is don't commit the aparadha at all. Don't fall into that sick condition at all. Stay in a healthy condition by association with healthy devotees. So the intelligent person will be able to understand his own condition, being in a sick condition. And then he has to begin to take proper measures to recover from that. Other people can help, of course, but then that person has to have a proper understanding, and he has to do the work of chanting and engaging in devotional service properly. Therefore, the warning is that better to beware of the Vaishnava aparadha in the beginning and don't commit it. And then we don't have this problem. In spite of that, it can be accidental aparadha. We have no intention, but somebody gets offended. So even that has effect, but less effect, much less effect. So it's easier to recover from that, much easier. We may not know even who we offended, so what to do? All we can do is continue devotional service, and eventually we get recovery from that particular effect. So devotional service is like a very sensitive plant. We have some plants that grow with no care at all. They're called weeds. You don't even plant them, and they come up, and then they start growing and growing and growing. You don't water them, don't do anything, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger real quick. And you have to start pulling them out. So bhakti is not like that. It requires careful cultivation. That is Krishna anusilanam. You have to cultivate the relationship with Krishna in a particular way. Then it grows nicely. When you don't do that, no problem. So the gardener has to be very skillful. If he's a negligent gardener and just plants the seed and then doesn't think about it and goes and does other things and never waters the plant, and then the bhakti lata won't grow. So he should be attentive to the plant. But then to be attentive, he has to be knowledgeable. You can be very attentive, but you put the wrong water on at the wrong time, and you do the wrong thing, then the plant won't grow also. So you have to know particularly how to water the plant properly. Just as some particular plants require certain type of soil, and you put them in other soil, then they won't grow. So we have to be very knowledgeable about the proper way of producing growth in the plant of bhakti. So that's why we do need some knowledge. We need scriptural background, which we'll get through association. So, therefore, we are responsible for cultivating that plant, and we have to safeguard it in all cases. So, the mad elephant is like the Vaishnava aparadha comes along and destroys the plant. So we have to protect the plant from that particularly. Of course, other weeds, we have to protect it from other weeds, etc. So we have to be attentive in all cases. So how do we protect from the Vaishnava aparadha? So the solution is you put a fence around the plant. So what is the fence? Good Vaishnava association. If we put the wrong fence around, that is bad Vaishnava. It encourages the elephant to come and destroy the plant. So we have to put the proper fence of good Vaishnavas there. Then we are protected. So therefore, the scriptures always advises that we have to take association of devotees. As is said here, Krishna here is praising the devotees and how purifying they are and how they can manifest bhakti in another person because of their compassion. So this is a constant instruction. Not just a once in a while instruction, temporary instruction. It's a constant instruction, because this way we have fence, so we protect the plant very nicely, and we don't allow the aparadhas to come in. Therefore we have to be very, very careful to take proper Vaishnava association. Then the plant grows very, very nicely. So though all processes of bhakti are purifying and produce bhakti, that's their nature, those primary processes of bhakti, some are more powerful. So chanting the holy name is very powerful, that's the Yuga Dharma. But then we find in Bhagavatam also that the association of devotees, this is a very powerful influence. It is the cause of bhakti, it is the cause of faith, and it is the cause of protection from aparadha. It's the cause of advancement. So it's also a very important anga of bhakti. So we cannot isolate and say, I'll only chant the holy name. Then it's more like the Kanishthadikari, he's just by himself doing something. So we need the association for proper knowledge, proper guidance, so we can cultivate properly, for protection from aparadhas, etc. for inspiration, for guidance in all cases. And of course, just mercy. And by this, the bhakti lata begins to grow properly.
Maharaj, it says with the sage's glances, it purifies the person. So simply by glancing, it purifies by the sages, or when they give instruction and the person follows the instruction, then it gets purified. He gets purified.
There are many ways that mercy. So, for instance, this is described by mercy alone, up to bhava or even prema, and one of them is glance, which actually means glance. It also means seeing the Lord. So you get to see the Lord, then you get purified immediately. Of course, Sudradeva was already in a high state. See the Lord, so they can advance quickly simply by getting the seeing the Lord. Others, simply the Lord may say, or the great devotee may say, may you have bhakti, may you have prema, and then suddenly you get prema simply by word, like that. So there are different ways in which the mercy may manifest. That's, of course, Kripa Siddhi. Yeah? So normally, of course, when we talk about the glance of mercy, etc., then it may not mean that simply looking as such, but this means that the devotee decides to give mercy to a particular person, more metaphorical in that sense. But we cannot discard the fact that everything about the devotee is purifying, including the foot water or the foot dust or whatever. So similarly, the glance also is purifying or whatever like that. But as in the case of Mahavishnu glancing, then usually the commentary is not as actual physical glancing. It means the will of the Lord. He desires to create, therefore he is expressed as a glance. So when the devotee desires to give mercy, then you get some good advancement.
Maharaj, we do always knowingly or unknowingly aparadha. Any consider for unknowingly aparadha? Any consider for unknowingly aparadha?
Any?
Consider.
Consideration for unknowingly doing aparadha.
What do you mean consideration?
How effective, what are the offenses, when it is done unknowingly?
Well, if we never know that we did commit an aparadha, then it's very difficult to do anything other than to continually chant the holy name. But then we could intuit that maybe we did because our bhakti starts declining. Then we say, must have committed some aparadha unknowingly to somebody and they got offended, but we don't know who it was, so therefore our bhakti has declined, it's not advancing at all, it's going backwards. So therefore, we have to chant the holy name more intensely. If eventually we find out that yes, someone is upset with us, we offended a certain person for some reason, then the procedure is to go and apologize to that person. In which case, then a lot of the effect of the aparadha gets immediately dissipated.
That's why he's doing aparadha. He doesn't know that he's doing aparadha, that's why he's doing it. He doesn't consider that as aparadha, but still it is aparadha. So the same situation is when you are doing unknowing aparadha or a knowing aparadha, because knowing aparadha nobody does, I think. It's
well, in one sense, it's unknowing, because why would they do it if they wanted to destroy bhakti? But let's say they criticize other devotees. So it's not accidental in one sense, because knowingly he's using his mouth and he's saying some words against the devotee. He was, oh, I'm praising him, but actually criticism, maybe this ignorance or something, but you know. They say, oh, that's not a criticism, that's not an aparadha, I'm just telling the truth or something like that. They may say that. But one has to be very careful. So that's a knowing aparadha. Accidental is, we don't even know anything happened, but somebody got offended that you turned your back on them when actually you didn't mean to do anything. You didn't even know they were there. and you turn your back on this, oh, they offended me, like that. So that's unknowing aparadha. But where we actually do something in terms of, talk about people or whatever, or do things against people with some sort of intent. And behind that, of course, is some malicious intent. Otherwise, why do we use such words against a person? Or talk about another person to another person using certain words? It means there is some seed of malice in our heart. So in that sense, it's intentional. But we may not think it's aparadha, so it's unintentional. But no, that's more of the intentional type. Well, that's the words. And then there may be the actions also, maybe do things. You can hit a devotee, for instance. Yeah, physical violence. Or you can do things, if they're doing something, you can interrupt somehow their service knowingly, just to agitate them or something like that. They do things, like that, maliciously. If there's a malicious intent behind it, simply because you don't like the person, you want to somehow spoil their service somehow, so you do something so that they can't do their service properly, like that.
But seems that in the most sense, it is always good for the devotees not to talk about anything other than Krishna Katha, because anything can be taken as an offense. Even the change of voice, the decibels in your voice considered to be offense by somebody. So that being the case, talking only about Krishna Katha is the best way of keeping ourselves protected against
or praising the devotees. But in any case, I think more than the voice or whatever is the attitude of the person involved. That they have to understand certain basic principles about how to approach Krishna. And to approach Krishna, and then Lord Chaitanya says you have to be humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, etc. And then you have to respect the devotees in a similar way. If you don't do that, you can't advance. So if you don't accept that principle, then whatever you do, even just concentrating on Krishna, speaking about Krishna, is not going to work out very good. It's not going to be very productive.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the Sangha of devotees, how the corrections should be given among Vaishnavas?
Among
the Vaishnavas, how the corrections should be given? Corrections?
Corrections?
Yeah.
Oh,
and who can give that correction?
Yeah. If one has honest intent in trying to correct somebody's fault, no problem in doing that. That's not aparadha. There's no malicious intent there. But of course, in doing so, then, as I think it's Bhanu states, that you should speak nicely. You should never speak untruth, and you should always speak the truth. So you never tell lies, and you always tell the truth. Don't avoid telling the truth if it has to be told. But you also say it in a very sweet way. So the other person is not offended by it, and they can take it as a good correction. Well, if we're on a lower stage, how we can correct someone on a higher stage is not possible. For the higher person, then he can correct in other words, the Madhyama can correct the Kanishta.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, like sometimes it happens that we are almost surrounded by Kanishta people, devotees, and like who generally criticize others like that. So how can we get in that kind of association? How can we take higher associations? That is not possible much to get higher associations. Or how can we avoid that tendency of their tendency to criticize others? It should not affect others. Even while doing services also, when we come together, we need, because some services we cannot do alone, so we need the help of some devotees, and they have that intent to criticize others that may affect us also. So how to avoid that?
Well, of course, I think the other persons have to also be encouraged to follow the basic principle of not criticizing others. And if there is a problem, then go to some higher authority to try to correct all of that.
Maharaj, watering the Bhaktivedanta beej is compared to hearing and chanting. Then what is removing the weeds compared to? What are we actually doing when we want to remove the weeds?
What are we doing when we?
When we want to remove the weeds.
You want to remove the weeds?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the anarthas that may grow up are the weeds. Now, the weeds will grow if one is, we're just inattentive. So we're doing devotional service and we do have anarthas there. So we don't try to control them at all, those anarthas. So that is why we have some minimum regulations we follow, like core regulator principles, etc. We have some guidelines about our conduct, etc. So some people may not care about that, so then they make break principles and do everything like that. So that's like the weed growing up. And then there may be other things in terms of habits like anger, etc. like that. So of course, in nectar devotion, one of the angas of bhakti is don't fall under the control of lamentation, greed, etc. All these type of things. So if we make no attempt to even put them under control, then that's also detrimental for our devotional service. The other thing is that in the process of devotional service itself, then we have anarthas growing in the sense that we get assets like respect, honor, position, material things through devotional service. Then we become attached to that for personal reasons. That becomes a weed. So how do we prevent the weeds from growing up? Obviously, if we practice bhakti properly, we won't get attracted to those things. And if we're practicing bhakti properly, then we'll keep our anarthas under control, minimum under control.
Maharaj, can you please explain what is Nitya Siddha, Nitya Baddha and Baddha Mukta?
Nitya Siddhas are devotees in the spirit, jivas, who never fall into the material world and become contaminated with ignorance, never take a material body. They always have a spiritual body in the spiritual world. The Nityabaddhas are the jivas in the material world who have material bodies and have anadi karma, anadi avidya, etc. So we just take life after life, material bodies, and experience karmas. The Baddha Muktas are the jivas in the material world who get the mercy of the devotees and the Supreme Lord, and they end their material existence, and then they end up with spiritual bodies in the spiritual world, and then they're eternally there after that point.
Dandra Sri Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sultan Maharaj ki jai.
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
To get the Kindle edition of the book, we can visit Amazon website for your country. and sign in with your account. We can search the book by typing the title of the book or type H.H. Bhanu Swami in the search bar to get the complete list of Maharaj's publications. By clicking H.H. Bhanu Swami, we can see the entire library. Let's select a book, say Gopal Champu. On the right hand side, we will find a drop down box with the title Deliver To. Click on it to select your device. Click Buy Now and proceed with your login details and complete the payment process. Some of the books are free with Kindle Unlimited. We can get them by clicking here. To get the paperback edition, please click here.